I platinumed the game Final Fantasy I, and here's how it went. In this game, you play as John Fantasy. You and your merry band of heroes set out on a quest to restore the light of the 4 crystals, which have been corrupted by the 4 fiends of chaos. Now let's start with the trophies you're likely to get throughout the main story. The first that we get is called A Hero's Journey, which we get for defeating the knight Garland and rescuing the Princess Sarah. That was our first story-based trophy, but we won't be getting another one for quite a while. In the meantime, there are quite a few non-story trophies that I got before getting the second story trophy, so let's get right into them. The first non-story trophy we get is called Apprentice Warrior, which we get for defeating 100 enemies. I got it while on the way to the game's second town, Provoca. Once there, I went to deal with the local pirate problem. Here we meet the pirate captain Bike. After we kill all of his subordinates, he has a change of heart and pays us off with his boat. Encountering these pirates puts us over the threshold for getting the trophy Field Research Basic, which we get for filling out 10% of the game's bestiary. Armed with a boat, we can now sail down to the town of Elfheim. While heading south, I got the trophy Thrifty Spender, which we get for earning a total of 10,000 gil. Inside Elfheim, we find out that their prince is sick, and so, like the heroes we are, we go on a quest to find a cure. The start of said quest requires us to go south to the Marsh Cave. While on the way, I got the trophy Experienced Warrior for defeating 300 enemies, and while inside the cave, I got the trophy Legendary Warrior for defeating 500. Inside the cave, we find a crown that allows us to unmask the culprit of the prince's poisoning, the Dark Elf Astos. Killing him gets us the Crystal Eye, which we can then give to the witch Matoya in exchange for a tonic that can heal the elf prince. After we save him, the prince gives us the Mystic Key. With said key, we can rob the royal treasury, which nets us the trophy Rookie Treasure Hunter for opening 10% of the chests in the game. We can also head back into the Marsh Cave to grab some previously inaccessible chests. While doing so, I got the trophy Smart Saver for getting a total of 50,000 gil. After this, we head back to the castle from the start of the game so that we can steal from them as well. We pilfer the powder and explode the canal, giving us access to the rest of the map. From here, we go into the Cavern of Earth to fight the vampire who is allegedly corrupting the Earth. On the way down, I got the trophy Moneybags for getting a total of 100,000 gil. With the vampire defeated, we get the Star Ruby, which we then give to the giant who lets us through so that we can grab the Earth Rod, which then finally lets us go down to the end of the cavern so that we can fight our first Fiend of Chaos, the Lich. The fight itself goes pretty quick, and we land ourselves our second story trophy, Earth's Blessing, for restoring the Earth Crystal. In total, between fighting Garland and fighting the Lich, I got 8 non-story trophies, 4 bronze, 2 silver, and 2 gold trophies.
Tangent time.
The exact definition of ideal pacing varies from game to game. In general though, I'd say that you would expect to get mostly bronze trophies early on, and maybe some silvers, but definitely no golds. This is especially true if you go into the game without knowing anything about the trophy list in advance. Speaking for myself, I didn't check the trophies until after finishing the main story. Despite being completely blind to the trophy requirements, I still managed to stumble my way into getting 2 gold trophies in no time at all. I think the main issue here is a lack of scaling. As an example, let's look at the warrior trophies. Since the gap between the first and second and the second and third trophies are both 200 enemies respectively, it makes it so that there's no sense of scaling achievement. The same can be said for the gil trophies. Since the amount of gil you receive from enemies increases the further into the game you are, you're going to get your first 50,000 significantly faster than your second 50,000. This all but guarantees that you'll get both trophies one after the other, or at the very least you'll get them both in quick succession. Getting spammed with low effort trophies causes them to feel hollow, especially when their grades are this high. I feel that these 2 trophy sets could easily be tweaked to feel weightier. Perhaps the warrior trophies could go from 100 to 1,000 to 5,000 enemies, and the gil trophies could be increased so that you're going from 10,000 gil to 100,000 to 1 million for each stage of the trophy set. This would give the player a better sense of accomplishment while also pacing out the trophies across the game instead of cramming them all into the first few hours. This can be seen in practice with the trophy sets for the chests and the bestiary. As we'll cover later, these trophy sets were perfectly paced out so that you get each stage of it in the early, mid, and late game respectively. Speaking of which, the next trophy I got was Field Research Advanced for completing 50% of the bestiary. I got it while on the way to our third story trophy, Rekindled Flame, which we get for defeating the Fiend of Fire, Marileth, and restoring the Crystal of Fire. From here I went over to the Ice Cavern so that I could grab the Levastone, which we then used to reawaken the Airship. On the way I picked up the trophy Veteran Treasure Hunter for getting 50% of the chests in the game. With the Ice Cavern iced and the Airship aired, we can now head up to the next trophy that I got, Token of Courage. To do this, we go up to the Citadel of Trials, where we face like 2 trials, and our reward for which is the Rat Tail of Courage. We then bring this to the dragon Bahamut, and he'll certify our wizard's license. The next trophy I got was also our 4th story trophy, which is called Revitalizing Waters, which we get for defeating the Fiend of Water, Kraken, and restoring the Crystal of Water. The Kraken goes down pretty easy, and so we make our way to the next section of the game. The next trophy I got was Adventurous Wayfarer, which you get for visiting every single map in the game at least once. I unlocked this trophy the moment I entered the Flying Fortress. As we explore this next dungeon, we find a material known as adamantite. We can then bring it to the Dwarven Smith, at which point he will forge it into the legendary blade Excalibur. Instead of going immediately though, I decided to finish up the dungeon first, since I figured I wouldn't forget after leaving. And so we get to the end of the Flying Fortress, where we fight our 4th and final fiend, Tiamat. I'd say that of all 4 fiends, she was the first one to give me a bit of a challenge. Even then, we take her out pretty quickly and then restore the Crystal of Wind, earning ourselves the trophy, Wind's Caress. With all the fiends defeated and all the crystals restored, we can now enter the endgame. Here, we learn the truth of Chaos, which is that he's really the knight Garland who we defeated at the start of the game. Upon his death, the fiends snatched his body so that it could be sent into the past to become Chaos. As Chaos, he would then create the fiends so that he could send them into the future to save himself. This creates a time loop that allows him to live forever. Yeah, so I really enjoy the time loop aspect of the story. Up to this point in the game, it's been a pretty functional RPG story about saving the world from a demon lord type character, not too dissimilar from something like, say, Dragon Quest I. I feel that the added complexity of the time loop takes what could have been a pretty standard story, and it makes it significantly stranger and more interesting in a way that's really stuck with me ever since I initially played Final Fantasy I around a decade ago. Anyway, let's get back to the game. Before we can fight Chaos, we must first traverse through the Chaos Shrine of the past, back in its prime. Most notable here is that all the fiends we killed in the present are still alive because we're in the past, and at this point in the timeline, we haven't killed them yet. As far as justifications for a boss rush go, I'd say this is a pretty good one. For some reason, the past fiends are significantly beefier than their future selves. Since most of their fights went pretty quick earlier in the game, I actually do appreciate getting to have these tougher fights with the fiends. While traveling through the Chaos Shrine, I reached level 50 with all of my party members, which unlocks the trophy Seasoned Hero. After thoroughly exploring the shrine, we make our way to the final boss, Chaos. The spike in difficulty between him and the rest of the game is exactly the kind of thing that I love in RPGs, so I really enjoyed the Chaos fight. My first experience with the fight seems pretty strange in retrospect. Like, I was a bit above level 50, and the fight seemed long but manageable. Later on in the post-game, I decided to go back down to the bottom of the Chaos Shrine to check to see if Chaos was still there, like to see if he was still fightable in the post-game. He was there and he was fightable, so I did, and I realized that my first attempt went weirdly well. I got really lucky. When I went in to fight him a second time, my party was around level 75, and yet the fight felt harder, even though it actually wasn't any different. The first new thing he did was a hastened punch that dealt 800 damage, killing my black wizard instantly. The second new thing he did was bust out the spell Curaja, which has the interesting little effect of healing him completely. I still ended up winning, but the disparity between the two fights really felt worth mentioning. It really shows how lucky or unlucky someone could be when fighting Chaos. With chaos defeated and peace restored to the world, we get the final story trophy, Prophecy Foretold. But the game isn't truly over yet. We still have 4 more incredibly difficult trophies left to get. The first that I got was the trophy Hidden Game, which requires you to hold down circle while mashing the X button until this sliding block puzzle pops up. Opening up the minigame on its own is enough to get you the trophy, but I decided to finish it anyway. To be honest, I was actually pretty proud of myself for doing it. With that out of the way, the next incredibly difficult post-game trophy that I got was Sword of Myth, which you get for getting the Excalibur. Yeah, so I got a little, let's say, overeager after finishing the Flying Fortress, and I ended up running straight to the Chaos Shrine without even thinking about the Adamantite. My own blunders aside, acquiring the Excalibur earns us the trophy, Sword of Myth. After this, I entered the Chaos Shrine once again, so that I could finish up the 3rd insanely difficult post-game trophy. To do this, I have to walk down this hallway and find the last 4 chests in the game. For some reason, I kept walking past this. This gets us the trophy, Legendary Treasure Hunter, for opening every chest in the game. And now we reach the final post-game trophy, Field Research Professional, which we get for filling out the entire bestiary. In the course of a regular playthrough, I managed to get 126 out of the 128 total entries, which leaves us with 2 final enemies to encounter. Missing these 2 actually makes a lot of sense, since both of them are rare random encounters. The first of the 2 that I pursued was the Iron Golem, who has a so apparently he has a 1.6% encounter rate exclusively on B4F of the Chaos Shrine, but I ended up finding him by accident while I was wandering around lost. The main thing of note about the Iron Golem is that it has the ability Deadly Gas, which has a chance of instantly killing the entire party. Overall though, the Iron Golem's pretty quick to take out. Deadly Gas rarely hits, and usually the Iron Golem has such little health that you'll probably take it down before it even has a chance to use it. And now we get to the final challenge before we fully complete the game. The super boss of Final Fantasy I, Warmech. Warmech can only be found on the 5th and final floor of the Flying Fortress, in the area where you fight Tiamat, and also like the bridge. Unlike with the Iron Golem, it did end up taking around an hour and a half for me to find Warmech. And when I did, I began preparing for a really difficult fight. Yeah, so Warmech is a fight that works better conceptually than it actually does in practice. The idea of a powerful automaton that was built by an ancient advanced civilization that now continues to patrol around the ruins of their civilization centuries after they've left, it's really interesting. I really like Warmech. The fight itself, though, I feel like it leaves a lot to be desired. Okay, so it has a passive regen ability that restores 5% of its HP per turn. Unfortunately, Warmech only has 2000 HP, so you can pretty easily outpace it. Offensively, Warmech has exactly 2 options. A little laser that hits decently hard, and a non-elemental magic attack called Nuke that also hits pretty hard. I think the main issue here is that in the time it takes you to find Warmech, if you're killing all the enemies you're encountering, you'll probably be severely over-leveled when you actually fight it. The strangest part of the fight though, and I think the only part that'll give people any amount of trouble, is the fact that Warmech has a 3.85% chance of fleeing. Yeah, so this super boss can run away from you. But all jokes aside, encountering Warmech gives us the trophy Field Research Professional for fully completing the bestiary. And with that, we unlock Final Fantasy I's Platinum Trophy, Master of One. In total, this Platinum contains 10 Bronze trophies, 6 Silver trophies, and 7 Golds. So my bit from earlier about the insanely difficult post-game trophies is a reference to the fact that this game really isn't that tough to platinum. Basically all the trophies can be easily acquired through regular gameplay, and the ones you don't get during that time will only take an extra 2 hours at most. I also did a few extra things for the sake of 100% completion that weren't included in the platinum process. The first thing I did was get my party to level 99. I also did a second playthrough so that I could get a thief and a monk to level 99, since it would have felt incomplete if I didn't. I also tried to buy all the spells in the game, since I felt like that should have been a trophy. Like, the fact that you can get the platinum without ever touching the magic system is a bit odd. Overall though, I'd say completing this game felt pretty worth it to me. While there are some adjustments and changes that I think could be made to the platinum process to make it more satisfying, I ended up enjoying the experience by the end. It's also a very quick game to complete. The platinum only took around 16 hours, which is really short for a turn-based RPG. And all the extra things I did for 100% completion really didn't add that much time either, only around 10 hours at most. Anyway, that is the end of the video. Wow, thanks for watching. Before I go, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the channel Joelms. It was his platinum trophy videos that initially inspired me to try my own hand at it, to give my own spin on the format, as you would. I've enjoyed 100% completing games for years now, but I've never really considered, doing something like this, like making a video talking about the process of completing a game. And so this has been like a really kind of fun way of like not just like sharing my thoughts on, a game that I enjoyed, but also kind of forcing myself to think like more critically about like, okay, what could have been better? Like what things could have been improved? Well, anyway, I will see you later.